and then went home. And then I called Carlton to get Kelly's number. And then I was calling Kelly to get Beyonce's number. And I called Kelly and said, "Hey, Kelly." She said, "Yeah." I said, "Well, I know this might be kind of weird, but what's Beyonce's number?" And she said, "This is Beyonce," because they live together and I didn't know it. And bam.
Big Dog and all the 581 ballers. I love y'all.
Beyonce.
Solange, my little sister Angie, Lyndall, I love y'all.
So, I've got a riddle. Name a person in this world who had a bigger fumble than Beyonce's ex, Lyndall Locke. I'll wait. Actually, I don't have to, because the answer is no one. It's been over 2 decades since Beyonce shut the door on that relationship, and their lives couldn't look any more different. Beyonce is a mega superstar with hits for days and undeniably one of the best performers, while Lyndall is just, well, a Lyndall. But it gets even spicier, guys, because Lyndall Locke has been talking about the time that he and Beyonce spent together, and what he has to say has blown everyone away. Like, what was Beyonce like when the cameras weren't rolling? And did Queen Bee really cheat on him with Jay-Z? I mean, what does he know about Beyonce that we don't? 'Cause, spill it. Right now, when most of us think about Beyonce, we immediately go Jay-Z, because sometimes it feels like these two have been together forever. But to be honest, y'all, there is hardly anyone else that most of us can picture Beyonce with. But before there was Jay, there was Lyndall, a lot. And he was with her during some of the most pivotal moments of her life. I mean, when she was still grinding and going after auditions everywhere to get her name out there. So, if there's anyone who has the inside scoop to who Beyonce was before the whole world knew her name, it's Lyndall. So, the thing is, Lyndall and Beyonce met in 1993 when she was 12 and he was 14. They were attending the same church in Houston, and Kelly Rowland was the one who actually introduced the two of them. And from what Lyndall is saying, it was love at first sight for him. He thought she looked like an angel and was the most beautiful girl around. Immediately after meeting, sparks were flying everywhere. And Beyonce and Lynn spent a lot of time hanging out after school, talking on the phone, and it didn't take long before they started dating. By now, you already know that Beyonce has been singing and dancing from a very young age. And Lyndall didn't know none of that until 2 years into their relationship. He just noticed that Beyonce and Kelly were always going on monthly trips to Atlanta. And when she returned, she was still the same shy, quiet girl at school. When he asked her why she was traveling so often, that's when Queen Bee revealed to him that she had been going on auditions for the industry execs and wanted to be a star one day. Now at this time, y'all, was so young. I mean, was she actually singing then? Yeah, she was. Yeah, she was never not singing, but she did not. It wasn't anything she talked about. She didn't talk about I found out like over time. You know, you have to say something wrong. I'm going out of town. It's like, okay. It's like, I'm out of town. Where you at? I'm in Atlanta. What do you mean Atlanta? It's like, it has to, so, and when she brought up the first time she brought it up, I'm sorry, I talk fast, I mumble, and I'm playing with my Rubik's Cube. But when she mentioned it, she said, I don't normally talk about this. I don't like to talk about this. This is, it's not a part of her life that she wants to put in other people's world. So that, it was personal to her. So, and I left it that way. She was pretty humble about the situation at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to talk about getting a record deal that they don't get. And even though she was so young, Beyonce never let up on what she wanted to do. But get this, she still made time for Lyndall whenever she could. And the two of them even shared their first kiss at a Brian McKnight concert when she was 15. When Destiny's Child really started to take off, Beyonce somehow found time out of her busy schedule to always make herself available to follow Lyndall Locke to important events like his high school prom. And she was also present for trips with Lyndall and his friends. However, from that point on, it only got harder from there. Everyone around them saw how Beyonce and Lyndall loved each other so much and thought that they were locked in for life. But as soon as Destiny's Child started taking off, it slowly became obvious that life was taking them in two very different directions. Beyonce was out there traveling and performing and taking one step every day to be closer to her dream.
Meanwhile, Lyndall was basically just at a standstill. He wasn't doing anything, wasn't trying to think too much about his future, and just cared about living in the present. So, when Beyonce and Destiny's Child were outside promoting their group's first hit song, Lyndall was at home getting high. Took it for granted. Took it for granted. Yeah, I want to say that's what it was. Taking it for granted. And then, let's say, took it for granted. And then checked to see if she thought I took off. And then she answered me with, yes, yes, bye. So you pretty much play with her emotions at some point. No, it wasn't on purpose. This was not on purpose. Looking back at the situation and seeing the situation for what it was, you know, at the time, it was just, I went and did something else, and then went to her house and went to sleep. And then when I was supposed to be hanging out with her, and then the next day, went to go do something else again. I mean, that's what it was. That's the actions that were taking place. But with those actions, what was occurring was me taking it for granted. The two of them still tried to be there for each other, but by the time DC's second album rolled around, the cracks were starting to show. Lyndall even said she was all about image and career while I was directionless and having fun. Once they started to hit big, it was obvious that she was changing. She became aloof. I told her she was becoming a whole new kind of person, and she looked at me and said, I am. One time when they were arguing about their life together, Lyndall straight up told Beyonce that he wanted them to live a simple, normal life. But child, Beyonce immediately soured when he said that and reminded him that this life was what she wanted since she was a kid, and she wasn't going to give that up for anyone, not even him. What made things even more awkward for Lyndall was when Matthew Knowles pulled him to the side and asked him directly what plans he had for the future, and Lyndall didn't have anything to say. Can you imagine how awkward it must have been for him to be consistently asked about his career goals and have nothing to offer every single time? I bet any time he saw Matthew Knowles coming, he ran the other way, because it must have been so uncomfortable to have them look at you like you were nothing compared to their daughter. Even it wasn't being said before they has. When Dawdle said Friday Connection jeers, and ultimately not good enough, and when it wasn't Matthew making him uncomfortable, it was the tensions in his relationship with Beyonce. Now that she was around other industry execs, especially men with a lot of wealth and power in their hands, she couldn't help but expect more for Lyndall, but he couldn't meet her expectations. One time, Beyonce secured them backseat passes to see Janet Jackson. And girl, when Lyndall met her, he was a bundle of nerves. He was stuttering and just kept talking and going on and on. But hey, who can blame him? If we met Janet Jackson today, I know that we wouldn't even know what to say because she is truly the Janet Jackson living legend. Still, everyone saw Lyndall's nervous energy, and Janet laughed and told him that he reminded her of one of her nephews, and he responded that her nephew must be pretty awesome. At that time, Lyndall didn't think too much about his behavior, because how else was he supposed to act in front of the Janet Jackson? But well, listen, Beyonce wasn't feeling that at all, and asked her cousin Angie to see him out. And yeah, that hurt Lyndall. A part of him wanted to understand that Beyonce was just there on business and just trying to protect her image, but he just couldn't understand why it was a crime to be happy about meeting someone that he had admired for such a long time. And it looks like Lyndall started feeling the pressure to do something or be something if he wanted his relationship with Beyonce to continue, because he started acting out real bad. Whenever Beyonce was out of town, he was out on the streets too, partying and sleeping with other women. But did Beyonce care? Well, she did keep on forgiving him and was trying to make up for their growing distance by acknowledging his place in her life with songs like Dangerously in Love and Perfect Man when she released her first album. Beyonce also gave him a special shout-out saying, "Thank you, Lyndall. You are very special to me, and I dedicate Second Nature to you." Dangerously in Love. That's the #1 B song. Dangerously in Love. 'Cause that song was written for me and about me. Dangerously in Love. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, so that's #1. That's my favorite song. But from that point on, there was just no way that they were staying together. Beyonce was so different from how she was as a teenager and was going to all of these industry events, while Lyndall was still a hometown boy and still didn't know where he was going in life. However, he still said that, despite their lives taking such different turns, a part of him was still holding on to her because of the kind of love that they shared and the memories they had together. And he was still hopeful that they could make a life together. Well, it seems Lyndall was the only one left in that relationship because Beyonce had been checked out and was getting on to bigger and better things. And by better, I mean Jay-Z. In 2003, Lyndall confronted Beyonce about the rumors that she and Jay-Z were a thing. And it was more like an open secret to those around them that they were dating.
She wanted since she
But
was a kid,
Beyonce
and she
still
wasn't going to
denied
give
it
that up for
completely.
anyone.
She
not
said that
even
Jay
him.
wasn't
What made things even more
her
awkward
type.
for Lyndall
And
was
she
when
still
Matthew
cared
Knowles
about
pulled him to
Lyndall.
the side and asked him directly
She could
what
never
plans he
give
had for
him
the
a
future.
definitive
And Lyndall
answer
didn't have anything
about
to say.
how and
Can
when
you imagine
she and
how
Jay-Z
awkward
met?
it must have been for
And
him
whenever
to
he
be
asked
consistently
her,
asked
her
about his
answers
career
kept
goals
changing.
and have nothing to
However,
offer every
when her
single
21st
time. I bet
birthday
anytime
rolled
he saw
around
Matthew
that
Knowles
year,
coming, he
there
ran
was
the other way
nothing
because it must
left
have been
to
so
lie
uncomfortable
about.
to have them look at you like
There
you
was
were
no
nothing
way of
compared to
putting
their
the
daughter.
pieces
And
back
ultimately, not good enough.
And it was on
And
that
when it
day
wasn't Matthew
that
making
their
him uncomfortable, it was the
relationship
tensions in his
fully
relationship with
ended.
Beyonce. Now that she was around
Maybe
other industry
Beyonce
execs,
didn't want
especially
anything
men with a
tying
lot
her
of
to
wealth
her
and power
past,
in their hands,
because
she
she and
couldn't help but
Lyndall
expect
never
more for
spoke
Lyndall.
again after
But he
that
couldn't
day.
meet her expectations.
And Lyndall, on his
One time,
part,
Beyonce secured them
never
backseat
really
passes to
forgot
see
about
Janet
her.
Jackson. And
Well,
he also said,
how
Beyonce was the
could
love
he?
of my life. And I was hers, so
Because,
losing her is still my biggest
she's
regret.
everywhere.
She would say to me all the
And
time,
one of
I'm
the
afraid to
biggest
ever live my
stars
life
in the
without you,
world.
Lyndall. I want you to be mine forever.
Still,
But he could only
he
look
has
at her
shared
from
that
afar
losing
now.
her
And fans
is
agree
his
that it was
biggest
all for the
regret.
best because there's a
And
high
he
chance that
also
Beyonce
said,
wouldn't have
"I
gotten
was the
to where
love
she
of
is
my
now
life,
if she had still
and
stayed and
I
held
was
on to
hers.
him."
So
He didn't
losing
make
her is still my biggest regret." She would
but
say
the
to me
direction
all the time, "I'm afraid to ever live my life without you, Lyndall. I want you to be mine forever." But he could only look at her from afar now. And fans agree that it was all for the best because there's a high chance that Beyonce wouldn't have gotten to where she is now. If she had still stayed and held on to him, he didn't make it because he wasn't willing to grow.
girl, when Lyndall met
It's
her,
cool to be
he was
fun
a
and
bundle.
play around, but the direction she was going in, he wouldn't survive. She was headed to the top, and he was just a regular guy. It was never going to stay the same. I wouldn't get married after that. Let's be honest, he'll never find someone better than Beyonce. But do you guys think that their relationship ended the way it was supposed to? And did Lyndall really fumble with Beyonce? Sound off in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe, because there is more coming down the pipeline. and I'll see you in the next video. Bye, baddies.